Everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to give us a minute or two while people are joining. Just wanted to welcome you. We'll get started here in just a moment or two. Thanks again for coming. If you're just popping in, hello, welcome. Just having a few moments here as people are joining us. So I think you'll see a little poll on your screen, but happy to have you with us today, and we'll get started in just a moment or two. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. If you're just popping in, happy to have you with us. We're going to get started here in just a moment. Just wanted to give everyone a minute or two to make sure they could log in. Excited to be here with you today. Okay. How about we start rolling here together? Again, I'm so glad you're with us. My name is Andrea Satariano, and I am the Director of College Counseling at ESM Prep, Guidewell Education. And so happy you're here. I know this is a big topic. My background in working in high schools around the country for the last 27 years, and prior to that, working on the college admissions side, where I read all of these essays for many years. I think I will bring to you a lot of insight that I hope you find helpful and calming, and kick this season off on a good note, because I know that the Common App personal statement is a little scary, but I'm here today to help you understand more about what it is, how to approach it, and how to make the most of it. All right, let's get started. So first, I think it's important that we understand what the Common App personal statement actually is. So in the Common App application, the platform that most high school students are using to apply to the overwhelming majority of colleges in the United States, offers the opportunity to write an essay, a personal statement, they call it, that has a maximum of 650 words. It's about a length of a page. Most students have written this type of work for homework assignments. The prompts change from year to year. They tend to keep similar ones, but every other year or so, they're changing up the prompts. The prompts from this year have already been released, so we'll talk about that in a moment. But there is always an option of topic of your choice. So if you're a student joining us, a junior, or if you're the parent of a junior or guardian, there's always an out. If the first 6 or so prompts don't resonate, they can go with a topic of your choice. There is no preference by college admissions committees given to any of the prompts. They are all the same. They're all weighted equally. So sometimes I know students get anxious about choosing one that might seem a little more in depth or a little more challenging to tackle. It's just not true. Any of the prompts that resonate well with the student is the one they should pick and go with. This essay is really the biggest opportunity in any applicant's file to stand out, for the college to learn something special and unique and authentic about the applicant beyond what they can already see, right? An application comes in and they see a transcript, courses and grades, they see an activity list, they see some teacher recommendations, but really this is the moment for the student to really be themselves and tell their own story. So the objective, right, is, and again, there's some nuance to this depending on the type of major you're going for, perhaps, or your own personal narrative. But the essay should be thesis driven, not activity driven. And what we mean by that is we're not taking an item off your activity resume and just solely talking about that. We need to always ask, as we're writing the Common App essay, what is this saying about me personally? So this is who I am, right? This is what I've learned. This is how I show up every day in my life. It's not a thing I did, but how I lived it. Um, this is really a story that only you can tell. So, for an example here, a lot of students, myself included back in the day, was the yearbook editor. And that's great. There's a lot of life lessons learned and a lot of things that you do and are responsible for in that role. But there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of yearbook editors out there applying to college. And so, what in the day of the life of your leadership moment are you talking about there? So that's what I mean. We want to be authentic and make it a day in our life. That's what we're trying to show them. So why start now, right? It's the middle of May. A whole lot is going on in high school juniors' lives. Final exams, AP exams, end of school year activities, lots of things are happening. But time management is absolutely the key to navigating the college application process and maintaining your sanity. And this specifically includes why start the Common Application essay writing now versus later. So here's a timeline that's important to keep in mind. The Common App itself has already published the prompts for the class of 2027, so they're already available. The Common App itself, it rolls over from the current senior class, the students who are graduating right now in the next couple weeks, it rolls over to the class of 2027 on August 1st. On August 1st, all of the colleges start populating their own individual supplemental essay questions into the Common App. So you can't log in today and see a college's supplements for next year's seniors, but you do that after August 1st. So that means students really need to focus on writing those supplemental essay questions that are specific to their college list in August, September, and October. This is all, of course, leading up to the early application deadlines of November 1 is the most common, November 1, November 15. The overwhelming majority of students in the country are applying somewhere in that early timeframe. So you really want to set aside August, September, October for brainstorming and drafting and editing the supplemental essay questions that colleges on your list will ask. Not every single college has a supplement, but most of them do, and most of them have more than one. So if you have 10 to 12 colleges on your list, you could potentially have 10, 15, 20, 25 supplemental essays ahead of you. So we want to bank that time for those supplements in August, September, and October. That means June, right now, May, June, July should be spent thinking about the personal statement, the Common App essay, looking at the prompts, brainstorming a couple ideas, going back and forth, choosing one ultimately, and drafting this before August 1 begins. Now, think about what you, students, or you, your family, are doing between today and August 1. There are probably summer camps and athletic trips and family vacations and maybe a family wedding. Things will come up. So really focusing now on what those topics are, narrowing down the choices, selecting one or two, and starting that brainstorming and drafting process will really be crucial so you can navigate this all in a very timely manner. Okay, so where do I begin? This is usually a very crippling moment for students. They're looking at a blank page and a big question, and they feel the weight of this question. And I love this quote by Stephen King, who famously wrote, "The scariest moment is always just before you start." And it's true. Like, this is what writers get writer's block, things happen. Students are really feeling the weight of this is the one moment I have. And it's true. It's an important opportunity. But creating a system to just get things on paper will help you immensely tackle this project. Working with students over the last 25 years on this very issue, they procrastinate out of fear. They're afraid they don't have the perfect topic. They are afraid their story isn't important or meaningful enough. And the truth is, there's no perfect topic. College admissions reps say all the time, they read current event topics over and over and over and over. It's the little things that can stand out that really grab their attention and are just as meaningful as those big, profound experiences. So please don't get stressed that there is a topic that will be more important than another one, as long as it's your most important topic. Okay, students very often tend to write about what they think admissions committees want to hear, right? They want it to be impressive. They want to demonstrate all of their highlights and their leadership opportunities. It becomes a litany of all of these achievements. In reality, admissions reps want to know who you are beyond your statistics and your resume. So please don't waste this opportunity on just reiterating your activity list, right? Pick, again, a moment in time, a day in your life, a specific anecdote that really captures who you are as a human being in your day-to-day world. Students and parents often hear you should avoid certain topics. A couple that come to mind immediately: politics, religion, things of that nature. But time and again, admissions reps will say any topic can be a good one if it's well written. So please don't necessarily shy away from a topic that you feel might be too controversial, because it might be the perfect topic for you. Stay true to yourself. Now, this is an era of social media and everyone posting everything and being something, aspiring to things, which is lovely. But admissions reps consistently say they're just trying to get to know who you are. Who will you be in your residence hall room? Who will you be in the lab room? Who will you be in the club you join on campus? So staying true to yourself is really difficult, but really important. This is a common catchphrase right now: be authentic, but it's so true. These reps are reading thousands of essays, but there's only one you. So please, please do everything you can to embrace your own life and your own examples. I promise it will resonate with the committee when it really rings true to who you are. Of course, the essay needs to be grammatically correct. This is true, but perhaps as important, maybe more important, is that your writing sounds like you. I can't tell you how many times I would get essays, drafts from students, and it was so clear to me that a loving parent or older sibling over edited perhaps the student's essay, or the student has relied too much on AI. A great tool, right? AI is here. We need to learn how to embrace it and use it, but students should not be relying on that to write their essay. AI is just simply not nuanced enough at this point to really sound like you, like your own voice. And admissions officers, as many of these essays as they read, they can see through fluff. So don't pad your essay unnecessarily. The essay is a maximum of 650 words. It does not mean you have to write 650 words. Now, you don't want to write 250 words, but as long as the essay is compelling and speaks to you, it doesn't matter if it's 525, 612. Nobody is actually counting up the number of words. So please let the story tell itself, and please let your story be true to who you are. Okay, brainstorming. So this is also a scary thing, I think, for a lot of high school students who don't normally have to do this sort of reflective writing. Most students can, crank out an English paper or a history paper the day before it's due, and it's amazing. This kind of writing is not like that kind of writing. So to start fresh, my recommendation is create a Google Doc, copy all of the Common App essay prompts into it so you can see them clearly and organized. I always ask my students to read through each prompt, every single one of them. There's typically 6 or 7. And immediately take a pass at which ones sound interesting and which ones sound awful. And yes, it should be that apparent. A couple will be like, oh, that could be good, or ooh, no way. So that's first pass. Copy them all in, do a quick read through of each one. As the ones that are sounding interesting to you, start making simple bullet points or notes under them. Anecdotes that might connect to the topic. Come up with as many as you can, but don't push yourself to write the draft, right? We're just capturing immediate thoughts regarding each of those couple prompts that you are finding interesting. Don't limit yourself in terms of the timing of events. I think some cautionary tale of don't write about yourself in middle school. But if there was a moment that was transformational, set you on an interesting path of a hobby or an interest or a passion, that can be a pivotal moment in an essay. So please don't shy away from digging to your past and thinking about other examples that might blend into this longer story. I always think it's fun and interesting for the students to take those prompts and show a parent, show an older sibling, show a favorite teacher or a trusted adult, have them read through the prompts and share which one or two they think sounds interesting for you. They might have a memory that you haven't thought of, and that might play in nicely, right, to one of the topics. So don't shy away from reaching out to others at this initial stage of selecting the prompt and beginning the brainstorming process. I always encourage students to give yourself the space to let your ideas marinate. So you've gone through the list, you're making some notes to yourself, put it away, right? Go on, do some other homework, go do a couple other things. In a day or two, come back to the list, read through them again, see if you can add more bullet points at that point, see if you can expand on some of the items you've already written down. This is how you begin to see patterns evolve, and that might help you choose one topic over another. Okay, now the draft work. So we've gone through the prompts. We have developed some bullet points over 1 or 2 or 3 sessions of just writing things down. Now comes the drafting. And so students, again, who are so used to, cranking out papers on a strict school schedule, they're good at that. They know that. They anticipate that. I don't want any student going into this Common App essay anticipating writing it in one night and having one draft and being done. Writing at this kind of level is a process. And so all the students should expect to spend time drafting multiple versions of this topic. Time and again, I've had students come in with drafts. We've given feedback. I've highlighted some things. I've questioned some things. They've gone back. They come back with a slightly different version. Even by version 3, they're crumpling up their, paper, if they had real paper these days, crumpling it up and saying, this isn't feeling right. I have to start over. So please don't expect to be one and done with this Common App essay. It's common actually for students to choose 2 topics and say, I'm not really sure yet. And let's start on both of those and develop those bullet points and develop those rough drafts, outlines for 2 different prompts. Again, after you've gone through them 2 or 3 times, you've talked to somebody about them, it might naturally emerge that one is feeling more natural and better to you. So don't be afraid to quit a prompt, even if you feel like you're a draft into it. This should not feel forced. There's no right or wrong way to draft, to make an outline. So I have students sometimes who get paralyzed by, I can't come up with the perfect opening line, so they can't do anything else. My advice is looking at those anecdotes and those prompts, let that guide what you're working on as you're writing. So don't be afraid to take that anecdote and work on the middle of your Common App essay. Oftentimes I'll have students come in with a draft and I'll look at their opening paragraph and I will circle it and draw an arrow down and say, this is your closing. This is strong. And so now they have to go back and we have to re-envision how to open it, because now the beginning has become their end. So you can edit a bad draft, but you can't edit a blank page. So just start putting things on paper. I promise you, even if it's 1 sentence and you put it away and you come back 2 days later, start again. I understand that crippling fear of getting started and feeling that pressure, but I promise if you break it into small chunks, it will go more smoothly. Okay, more on drafting. So I have seen this time again with students. If you're super well organized, kudos to you. Love it. But most students around this process need to make a schedule and really stick to it. So I don't know if you have an app on your phone with a calendar, Post-it notes, a bulletin board, a notepad on the refrigerator in your kitchen, whatever works for you. Find a way to identify working dates and stick to those. The best place to start is to pick a due date for yourself and work backwards, right? So we earlier talked about August 1, when the Common App opens up all the other supplements. So let's pretend August 1 is your due date, right, for your Common App essay. You want to work backwards. Look at your family's calendar. Do you have a trip? Are you doing 2 weeks at summer camp? So you want to work backwards, and you'll be amazed at how short the runway actually is between today and when you want your Common App essay to be basically finished. Don't force yourself to sit for hours on end and stare at a blank screen. I tell students start with 30 minutes, even 15 minutes, and literally put it on your calendar. Make it Tuesday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 4 p.m., whatever it is, put it on the calendar and sit down and do it. Once you get into a rhythm of a 15-minute check-in, a 30-minute writing check-in, you'll find yourself being able to work for longer periods of a time. But you should not be trying to force yourself for hours on end to gut it through this essay writing. Again, don't be afraid to work out of the sequence of the essay. If inspiration strikes you, start there. There's no right or wrong way to do this. So a few tips, right, in thinking about your Common App personal statement. One, you want to get their attention, right? So you want to open with a sentence, an anecdote, a bold statement, a question, something that makes the reader want to read more, want to learn more about you. Now, I recognize this can put pressure on students to come up with the great opening line. And it's why time and again, I've had students not start with that, get to the heart of the bulk of the essay, and then we are able to reflect back and figure out how can we bring in the reader right away in that opening. Avoid the resume, tip 2. And parents, I often get questions from parents like, I want to make sure they really understand the value of this particular experience. And that experience might be worthy of the Common App essay. But remember, these admissions committees are very well trained at reading the resume, documenting activities, involvement in those activities, the length of time of commitment of those activities, the leadership within those activities. So I don't want us to waste an opportunity for a college to learn more about the applicant by reiterating what's in the resume in the Common App essay. Yes, there could be aspects of that are drawn in, absolutely, but it should not just be a regurgitation of what your resume already says about you. Okay, you've heard me talking about being yourself and being authentic. Basically, what this means is show, don't tell. And perhaps some of your English teachers have this to you in class. And it's easier said than done. But by using anecdotes, examples, right, explain the scene, set the stage, use emotional language. Remember, the reader doesn't know you or your school or your community, so you want to be clear and descriptive. So imagine you're just telling a story of you and you're painting a picture. Use that descriptive language so you can help set the scene so the person reading it can envision you and where you are and what you're doing. Okay, this is probably my all-time favorite tip, all-time favorite, is read your essay out loud. Now, you can do a couple things. You can read it out loud to yourself. You can have somebody read it out loud to you, but you will be amazed at what you hear that might jump out at you as not sounding right or feeling off or not fitting well in the storyline, something you have read hundreds of times over. It's extremely different when you are reading it out loud or you hear it read to you. So once you get a really decent, strong first draft, read it out loud and make sure it feels and sounds right, that it's in conjunction and working well together. Okay, that was a lot of information. I hope this was helpful. One of the things I will say, sort of in wrapping up, is the essay piece is always read right by an admissions committee. A typical process in the admissions review is it's almost all digital now. They're reading screens. They have a transcript on one page. They'll see the resume and activities summarized on a page. They're going to see your letters of recommendation. They're going to spend time on the essay. And they're going to read it and make comments. And almost always a second reader will be reading it as well. And those notes all get discussed and compared in committee. And that's how the process goes. So you have multiple opportunities for that essay to be read and reviewed by the admissions committee. And this process, I think students really, really worry about. This is a make or break moment. And I would say I've never had an applicant not be admitted or get denied because of the essay, but it is the one opportunity where you get to really stand out as yourself. You really get to be yourself. And I think that's the best advice any of us can give you at this stage is get yourself a plan, map it out, get started, and then let the writing flow and trust yourself in terms of your voice and your story. Great. I hope that was helpful. Um, I am looking right now. So I do see a quick question here. Um, Please elaborate on how to balance the not over editing advice with the don't crank out in one night. So how do you find the right balance? This is an excellent question. And I would say really, and a lot of students can write, quickly and well, but because of this process, being so authentic and so engaged, it's important to get something done in stages. So my best advice is again, make a writing plan, make a writing schedule, and stick to and don't force it. Don't force yourself to write too much. Don't force yourself to write too fast. If you open up your Chromebook and stuff starts flying out and you have a draft, wonderful. But I have found from experience that is not the typical process for most high school juniors who are getting started on this process. So again, my best recommendation is break it into chunks, approach it as a fun opportunity to share about yourself and not fall into the trap of I have to have this perfect and I have to have this done overnight. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found this helpful. All of us here at GuideWell are here for any additional support or questions you might have. So I hope you have a great rest of your week heading into the weekend. And thank you again for joining me today and for your time. I wish you all the best. Take care.